In the suburbs of Kampala city, in a town known as Kyengera, there lived a girl called Amina. She lived with her uncle and his wife, who accommodated her after the death of her parents. Her uncle and his wife worked at a private hospital in the city, and, for whatever reason, they always worked the night shift. Amina spent most nights alone in the house ever since she moved in with them. Her uncle and his wife would always tell her to lock herself in and never come out, no matter what she heard outside. It became a daily routine for them to warn her whenever they were leaving for work. At first, this scared Amina, as her uncle repeatedly stressed the importance of staying inside. But as months passed, Amina got used to the situation, since nothing unusual ever happened. One night, as her uncle and his wife were getting ready for work, they repeated their usual warning not to leave the house. Amina gave her usual response, "Yes, I won't." After they left, Amina stayed awake watching TV. Feeling hungry, she got something to eat. As midnight approached, she switched off the TV and went to bed. When she turned off the light in her room, she suddenly heard a tapping sound coming from outside. She was tempted to check it out, but her uncle's warning echoed in her mind, and fear crept over her. Instead, she switched on the radio and turned the volume to the highest setting to distract herself from the tapping. But even with the loud music, the tapping remained clear. Amina began to sweat, feeling butterflies in her stomach. She screamed, but her voice abruptly stopped. Slowly, she walked to the door and pressed her ear against it. The tapping had stopped, and silence filled the air. Her heart pounded in her chest as she tiptoed back to bed, pulled the covers over her head, and closed her eyes. Despite the silence, she remained alert, praying to fall asleep. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Her fear intensified as she gripped her sheets tightly and whispered for the spirits of her dead parents to protect her. Then, she heard her uncle's voice calling, asking her to open the door. "Uncle, are you back?" she called out, feeling a wave of relief. She climbed out of bed, hurried to the door, and unlocked the padlock, hoping to see her uncle. But when she opened the door, no one was there, only the empty front porch. At that moment, Amina remembered something chilling. Her uncle always carried spare keys, and they had never once asked her to open the door for them. Realizing this, she felt the hair on her body stand on end. She quickly slammed the door shut and ran back to her room. As she did, she noticed something lying on a chair in the corner. Curiosity mixed with fear, Amina cautiously approached the chair. There, she saw a baby covered in blood, its eyes wide open, staring at her. Blood dripped from its mouth. Amina let out a piercing scream and bolted back to her room, crawling under her bed. "I'm very scared," she whispered to herself. "Me too," replied a childlike voice from beneath the bed. Terrified, Amina turned her head towards the voice and saw another blood-covered baby smiling at her. "We are all scared," the voices echoed beneath the bed. Overwhelmed by fear, Amina blacked out. When she regained consciousness, she found herself lying on the ground. As she opened her eyes, she saw a group of people dressed in white gathered around something. Her uncle and his wife stood closest to the center. Amina got to her feet and walked towards them, but before she could get close, she froze. She saw herself lying on the ground, smiling, with blood trickling from her mouth. It was then that she realized her uncle and his wife were performing rituals involving stillborn babies. She screamed, and at that moment, the spirits of her dead parents appeared, weakening those conducting the ritual. Amina found herself back home, shaken but alive. Realizing the truth, Amina left her uncle's house and moved far away to live with her grandmother, starting a new life.